But next, so we're going to dig into some of these theories. There are two that really stuck out to me. First is from a member of Game Theory, Gaijin Goomba. Great channel, very smart guy. He believes that Sun and Moon are based on Japanese Shinto mythology, and there are two reasons for this. One, because Pokemon's always based its legendaries around mythology, and the Sun and Moon gods are essentially the centerpiece of Shinto's mythological background. And two, surprisingly, because of Yokai Watch. That series is hardly picking up any speed out here in the West, but in Japan it's an absolutely massive craze, even more popular than Pokemon, and it's a very Japan-centric game. It takes place very clearly in Japan. Its fundamental concept of yokai is based on Japanese folklore, so he's thinking that Game Freak is responding to that game's popularity by bringing Pokemon back to Japan, having it take place there, maybe trying to, combat it a little bit.
Well, if that's true, that'd be pretty ironic because Yokai Watch 3 takes place in America. So, seems like they, if that's what they're trying to do, I think they might have waited a little too long.
Is that out yet in Japan? Or?
No, it's not. It's still on the way, but, Yokai Watch has already shifted its focus.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a little skeptical that would be the reason, because I don't think that a game being set in Japan is necessarily like sales gold in Japan. I know a lot of otaku culture revolves around heavily Japanese games, but I think a game with this kind of global appeal, that's not really necessary. They just need to make a really great Pokemon game, and people will get on board.
That's true. Well, and then you also don't necessarily have to have, although it does fit the mold of, the Sun and Shinto gods from Japan. They've had gods from other mythologies in countries that were not of their native origin, like in Kalos, they had things based on, was it Norse?
Norse,
yeah. The Hoenn legendaries are based in Hebrew mythology. There's a lot of those things. But, to that same point, you could see it as, well, maybe it's time to look at Japan's mythology.
That would be cool, honestly.
Yeah.
Okami, Pokemon edition.
So another popular theory is based more on what we've seen in the past games. The conclusion is that Sun and Moon are essentially going to be to the Johto for Gen 6 and follow up Kalos directly, either by taking place in a region inspired by Spain or something like that, or by following up the story of Kalos, maybe even both. There are tons of clues found in X and Y, like there's one town with a giant sundial, and someone says that there are moon dials out there too. But perhaps the most damning connection is that Zygarde, who's recently gotten tons of new forms, and is a Pokemon that's powered by photosynthesis, it feeds off the sun, has not had its chance to be highlighted in like a Pokemon Z or something like that.
Yeah, I kind of am down for the whole Zygarde hiding a mystery about the next gen theory. Another interesting thing you might observe about Zygarde is that when you look at the underlying theme, it's considered the Order Pokemon. And in some ways, it's kind of like an Earth God in the Kalos lore. So looking at the Sun and Moon theme of these new games, it sounds like we're going to be getting a heavenly counterpart to the Earth-based lore that we've already gotten from the existing Kalos games. And on top of that possibly meaning a connection to the Kalos games, I wonder if that means that we'll get Pokemon that are a little less explicitly elemental this time around, because they're going to be focusing on space, or theoretically focusing on space, and space is kind of one of those things where you can play with all kinds of ideas. They don't have to be ideas that are based in Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, another interesting connection that could point to this sort of being like the Kanto-Johto relationship is there's a couple different characters in X and Y that talk about how they're from a different region, and one of them lists off all of the regions, and he's like, oh, it's none of those. So, it seems like they were already hinting that they were kind of, coming up with ideas for a new region. So I think it would really make a lot of sense for the two to be side by side, and maybe we'll be actually able to see some of Kalos in Sun and Moon.
Yeah. And part of the theory goes that it is the Johto to Kalos, so that you would be able to explore Kalos too, in just the same way you could explore Kanto. But who knows if that's. There's nothing concrete enough to believe in that yet, but it's certainly we can dream.
I'd like to believe that they could fit both regions onto a 3DS cart.
I would imagine that they can.
I mean, that was just such an awesome moment in Gold and Silver, being able to go back and see how things have changed. So that'd be really cool for them to relive that in sort of the anniversary game.
Yeah. Of course, Iwata was around to help with that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we don't have Iwata to forcibly cram the games onto one cart. But hopefully they've got a robust enough team that they don't need that kind of assistance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening to this Nintendo Week clip, NWC. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to us here on YouTube for more highlights and discussion videos from Nintendo Week podcast, or subscribe to us on iTunes for weekly breakdowns of all your Nintendo news, discussion segments on subjects, games, and more, and tons of other features. Thanks for listening, and we will see you tomorrow with another NWC.